Okay, so here it is. It is Last Resort, the screenplay that I began writing some years ago. I'll go like the year 2000, 2001. About the same year that Papa Roach released Last Resort, right? So this entire sort of Suicide series. So you can hear in some of the video and the another, right, which was partially me. The topics, okay, this is sort of resemblant of Frankie. Frankie, on the other hand, has longer hair. Okay, her mother Susan is East Coast, but it was changed to West Coast. I think not too long ago. So she has this vacant look in her eyes. She's not really looking at anything, us, the surroundings, her own thoughts. Kind of like in that music video. Okay, so some of it was taken from past experience with mutilation thoughts and cutting and freaking just overall harm to your sort of physical appearance, as opposed to the entire physical being, right? So you go, okay, that's rooted in something disliked about life and thought and so on and so forth, and then that takes existence as a behavior, ways acted in certain thoughts and so on and so forth. And I learned some of that in readings for social and behavioral sciences after treatment for like a year or two, I think it was. So that was like 8 or 9 years later. Some of this had been written. I'd lost part of it. I'd brought some of the thoughts back. I kept some of it in memory, not really remembering at times, and then came back to the story like over and over and over again. Right now it's like, I don't even remember what the page count is on this, but I know it's around like, it's 83. It's 83 on the page count. So some of the beginning imagery is that, there's a cityscape and we're descending from into an underdeveloped residential area. There's flashes, netted bolts of lightning, thunder cracking, all kinds of stuff. And so it's very chaotic. And then, we come to this apartment complex and start to ascend, seeing like, clothing lines and all kinds of like windows. And as you're passing windows, you see no curtains, you see curtains, but the curtains are sheets and, stuff like that. So not really very wealthy people and so on and so forth. It's sort of a project type, but not really, trying to live, et cetera, et cetera. 6 stories, the rain begins to fall. So as we're ascending, in the light, we see the drops of rain, passing us. It's kind of like little streamers. So anyway, there's that. And then as we're ascending, we come into an alleyway, but we're snooping into this alleyway. So it's not that there's anything ahead of us, it's that we have to snoop to make the sort of overall perspective be something eerie. So yeah, that's snooping into an alley, and then we track the brick base, which is along the base and then up, the wall. And that's sort of the next series of action lines. Raggedy curtains, gusts of wind, and we come to a window that's open. Now the wind has started to shift the curtain, so the curtain doesn't fall open, okay, or anything like that. It's that the wind is so powerful that the curtain shifts back into the dwelling, the apartment that it's in, and we pass as it's doing that. So that's inward, and then we come into this apartment. It's this like dingy, dull, freaking annoying old TV, like the old gray style with a little freaking dial instead of like the remote. So there's that, and aluminum foil is an antenna, atop a crate instead of like, entertainment center. It's torn back, old recliner, probably taken from some sort of trash container. Old newspapers, big swastika flag on the side of a flag on a wall. It's a swastika. He's very, 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 very much racist. I guess bad experiences in his past, or if not bad experiences, some sort of ideal that is unrealistic. So there's that sort of supremacies, sort of like ideas and stuff like that, which was crazy. See thunder rolls. There's a sink filled with dirty pots and pans, roaches scurrying along the countertop, rat sort of just sitting there with a little crumb, like num num num, sort of thing. And I think the rat's cute, which is going to be a little bit different because it's supposed to be like, disease, parasite, oh my god. Didn't fall out, Enter a short hallway, flash, the door is cracked. You inch closer, creeping to stop looking, you zoom in, okay? As this happens, there's a flash, and then the older Frankie starts to talk, okay? So voiceover, it's in younger Frankie. Jeez, I lost the controller mouse. There, okay.
And this is like a piece of dialogue that is stuck with me throughout the years, and I don't know why. And it's slightly changing with the vocabulary and sort of ideals, but it's we're destined to die, and every day lived we're closer to death, right? Aging and not being exactly where you want to be in life, sort of an understanding of where you want your future to be. It's like, are we ever really, I mean, truly alive? And so on and so forth. So
as that's happening, you hear her voice. There's movement. The floor is leaning on the floor. Okay, she's seated on the floor, leaning against two Nash mattresses, meaning that these mattresses are kind of sunk in the middle and sort of thin. Uh, Light from the street lamp. You can see light from the street lamp through the window. She's despondent, meaning, she's not really responding to anything. The lightning, the alcohol and drugs, the freaking mattresses that are there. And later on in the story, we come to find out why she's, so despondent and not really considerate of exactly what she's thinking. And that's basically, she goes from living in this type of neighborhood where her mother and father are, her father's an alcoholic and her mother is very passive, meaning that she doesn't try to, do anything about any of the situation that either of them are in. Frankie being sort of
Not rebellious, but she just wants away from it. She tries to avoid it, like an avoidance.
So there's that later, and she gets to meet, really wealthy photographer and sort of lives, years in sort of developing as her younger self into, an older Frankie that, goes on to college and then meets this guy. So that's how she kind of comes to be there. Okay, so she's, wearing this sort of attire of individuals you might think would be like white supremacists, cargo pants or stuff that would be sort of militia type, but at the same time not quite. He's more, I guess, against stuff, but sort of intelligent himself. So in a sense that he can have his views, but at the same time, if he causes problems for others, which he's doing or he would be doing, then it becomes a problem for the entire situation. At the same time, she doesn't like the ideal, raised in the home of two lesbians, or yeah, you're not going to get there in a couple, So anyway,
And that's lesbian in nature. So you see the light in the street lamp through the bare window. She's despondent, approximately 18, 19, something like that, barefoot, wearing an A shirt, a camouflage cargo pants. She's older Frankie. On a small nightstand is a few bottles of beer, a few empty beer cans, and an illegal substance. Now, I'm not sure what that's going to be, but it's illegal wherever it's at. There's Flash. Older Frankie's worried, right, beyond her years with a mask, fine beauty. So you say she's really, 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 really sort of fine featured, and you can see that, but you see sort of like the starting sort of visuals for age. That would be something like tension around the eyes, and then also lips, eyes and lips, tension around the eyes and lips, and then also dryness to her skin. Like she hasn't been using lotion and stuff like that. She's 18, doesn't really need it, but at the same time, she doesn't use it. So that's older Frankie, and goes on there, and then there's an insert glowing with the netted bolts of lightning. Again, there is a more dialogue, which is voiceovers in the same sort of voice. She's like, "Are we?" And then it's a pause. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be in your own form of duress, right? To live in despair happily, but become so limited or inhibited by the obscurity of a potentially disastrous mistake. And then when potentially disastrous mistake is emphasized, because she's questioning at that point, and then she goes, and then realize your entire life can mean something more than words can begin to explain. That was kind of added later. It was super easy. We're destined to die and never day live grew closer to the death, so we're never really alive. Are we? It's two questions, and then it goes on to telling her story. So that changed because it needed, I guess, more to the story, and then also sort of an understanding that she's not unintelligent. She's not like sort of, this is what I want for my life. It's totally illegal, and I don't care because I don't know anything else. She knows. She knows because she has a larger vocabulary, one. Two, she's reacting very negatively to a sort of situation that is not going to be beneficial for her or something like that. So you know who she is, where she's coming from, et cetera, at that point. She's crying. She's like, well, my story began long before this. Now, I don't know if I want to go with story or something else, but her story began long before this. What now seems like faded memories breathed me into mine. So what I don't know if that makes any sense, but to me it does. It's basically like at that age, 18, you're sort of still learning, but going into life and sort of trying to experience it for yourself, not really depending on parents for the stuff you need. So, and being able to make decisions that are not going to take you away from exactly what you want in your future. Me, I didn't have any of that, so I can understand it probably twice as easy as anyone else. They do empathize sometimes, though, so it's a lot easier. But even then, some of the understanding's lost. So at that point, she's like, what seems like faded memories breathe me into mine. Meaning that these are my memories. This is who I am. But at the same time, I had this chance in life, and this led me to this, and so on and so forth. And she's like, so this is how, and this, what did I go? And this is how it went. What seems like faded memories breathe me into mine, and this is how it went. So then there's a flash, and the next sort of fade in is, rumble, rumble, rumble. Sort of the same sort of idea. It's night, storming, etc. But she's sitting in a different apartment complex, the staircase, with a friend. It's rumble, rumble, rumble. Run down and beat up a bit. The walls are sagging with paint. Uniform against putrid green wallpaper from years before. Right, so it's just pretty less well kept. Frankie's held in the arms of Gina. Now, Gina is slender, short, about 15, and that's about the age of Frankie. They're really good friends, but she's just like, sometimes can't handle her shit type stuff. But it's not like that. Gina's from like a middle-class family that is attempting to save by living in places that are a little bit less well kept and trying to, aid in sort of the overall improvement. I've experienced that too. So, a little bit sort of better situation. So Frankie goes to her when she has problems, Anyway, so Frankie's sad and nervous, right? Storm's raging just outside, and she's like, she questions Gina. She calls her by her name, but it's in a question. And she's like, like, go ahead, like, you have something to say. And at that time, she's not feeling very loved, and you'll understand why. But it's like, do you think people can be loved? And you're like, wow, are they really in that type of situation? They're not. And I had this other freaking alternate idea. I think the first script that I wrote on the story was Gina and her were going to be like sort of close, but at the same time, it was going to run into a bit of understanding where Gina's going to help her commit a crime against her father, which is stealing money. And, that she's going to give this money to Gina at a time that Gina's visiting and her dad wouldn't know, and Gina's going to hide it outside so she can get it, right? And I was like, okay, no. Doesn't make any sense because that's a crime, and, she's not like that later. So that changed. It changed really quickly, especially in the rewrite. I wrote this maybe, 2-3 times. At various times throughout life. The story remained in my mind. She's like, you can always stay at my house, right? And she's a little bit more upbeat, so it's not always like a downer, right? You can always stay at my house. And then Frankie's like, I stayed at your place for what seems like half of my life, right? And she wasn't joking about that. She doesn't have a joke on her face or, like giggle, smiley, nothing. What seemed like half of my life. She's like, you're probably right. Do your parents and I changed this to even know where you are anymore? Do your parents know where you are anymore? Frankie ponders and Gina goes, this is a bad situation, And then Frankie, again, would it be such a bad thing if they just forgot about me? She's like, you have a point. Right. So they're realistic. Like, it's sort of surreal, but at the same time, is this a conversation that 2 15-year-old chicks are going to have? Not really. But at the same time, they do. Okay. She's like, you have a point, I told my mom that I want her to leave my dad. She's like, you did? What did she say? Kind of thing, but not really. It's like, you did? What did she say? Kind of scary. Like, if that happened to my mom or dad, it would be really weird, like, they're a really loyal couple. Sort of know exactly how it works and want it to work like that. Anyway, it's sarcastic, I won't do that. And she's mocking her mom. So here, and I noticed it's just something I do a lot. It's an entire,
inaccuracy sort of thing, a mother and father, because I lived, in the home of my mother for my life, and it's something that I always addressed first. It was my mother than father. In households across the country, say the majority is father and mother, sort of an American dream type thing. But at the same time, you have, two female figures, very feminine. You have, a masculine and feminine in a couple that is a little bit more difficult for me to understand, but at the same time, kind of, right? Two masculine, female sort of people in the same household. And then, the same for the male side of that, for, the entire group. Then you have trans men, trans women, asexual people even. So, for this one, it is Gina. She comes from the household of a father and mother where her father is, sole sort of provider for their family. Mother stays at home, sort of, crochets or cooks or, does whatever she does. Kind of reminds me of Jewish households. But anyway, it's father and mother. Let's see. See, my father and mother have talked about you staying at our place. She's like, what do they say? You're always welcome. Wait a sec. I was beyond that. Something I didn't know. Okay, here. I did this at the library too. I was like, dang, I was being mean. It's got to be more mean, right? Not really. She's like, I don't know what to do. Frankie, it's not that bad, She's like, yeah, it is. She's like, how are you sure? She's like, I don't know. I don't know. So I think it's going to be, I don't know. I just know. Or no. It's I just know. How did things change? So I think this conversation's gotta. She wants to leave, basically. She's like, I just know. She's like, how do things change? And she's like, what are you gonna do? She's like, run away. And Gina's like, no, you can't do that, Frankie. No. She's like, you can't do that, Frankie. She's kind of, what? Stop? Like what? Jeez, where is that coming from? She's like, I want to throw something at him. And she's point blank when she says that. So we're going into what, mentality? So wants to hear about mentality at this point. It's basically she wants to become violent to make the problem go away. Because, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, she has to do something about it. It's not that she wants to do anything other than just avoid him. But, it's like at this point, she's starting to get sort of the influence from teachers and people in society that see her and sort of nothing improving with the situation. She's met with a lot of pressure that her parents just sort of ignore. If that makes any sense. So there's that, and it's the inability at that age to be able to make decisions that are going to be beneficial to her life with that type of pressure and ability to develop, sort of, et cetera, et cetera. But there's that entire sort of alcoholism is not great. Being passive about alcoholism is not great type thing. It's also a crime, kind of thing. But things will not get better for him unless he does something, right? And that's Gina. She's like, exactly. He yells at me like I'm doing what he is, which isn't much. Anyway, she's like, Frankie, you're my best friend. She's like, I know. My life would be a whole lot better. She's like, I better be going. So it's a conversation they already had. And that point right there is something that I didn't intend. So do I change that or do I leave it? Do I like it or not? If I was you, my life would be a whole lot better. I wonder if she talks about Gina to Kate. So I guess when I get to that part of the screenplay, I'm actually going to explore that idea, and that's does she tell Kate about Gina? Do they talk still? Are they still friends? Stuff like that, or does she just leave everything behind and remember exactly what Gina had told her? Meet later, not so on and so forth. She's like, I better be going. It was cool to have you around so often. Cool. I'm like, cool. No, I don't know. I liked having you around so often. I like having you around so often.
It's like, see you tomorrow. And then Frankie, you see Frankie like basically walk through this staircase up to the apartment where she's at. And here's older Frankie again, the narrator. See, I used to spend more time with friends than I did family. I have many good reasons, so many reasons. And she's pissed off right here. My mother was this submissive woman, and my father, a bunk drunk alcoholic. I needed change, a very big change. That was one that would change my life for what I thought would be forever. Now here's the thing. It goes back from her younger mentality to her more mature mentality after Kate, the school she went to, that she developed. So at the beginning of the story, you notice that she's, more developed, but at the same time, she's going back and forth between these two mentalities, and she's not sure what she wants to do. Is my life always going to be like that? Is it not? I experienced that too. And that one was not fun. Drug use, annoyance, and I didn't the entire 3 years, okay? So it's a point also where you don't understand that there's going to be influences from others on your mentality. During times you're writing, I guess, about it, and people will think you're writing about yourself. It's stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it went, but something like that. I did experience it, and it was not the funnest fucking experience, okay? So, right here, I don't know. I think she should walk in through the front door as I had the original scene written, and it's basically, we're following her. She goes straight to the room and sits. Small room, bare essentials, small bed, about a dinged and scratched dresser. Across the room is a closet spewing clothes, right? And it is spewing clothes, okay? Tattered and 16. So she's 1 year older, 15. Gina's 15 and Frankie is 16. Frankie is, she's in a fetal position against the bed. I call it huddled. It's kind of like a fetal position. She's just like sort of crunched into this non-existent sort of seat. I don't even know how to say that. So the storm is more ferocious, and off-screen thunderous voice that of Bill, her dad, and the man of the house, right, is heard clearly through a closed bedroom door, an argument with Frankie's mother, Susan. Now, I don't like this bit of dialogue. It is so freaking, raw, it's not even funny. So it goes on from there, and basically Bill, after, yelling at the women of the house that he leaves, he wants his wife to go get him more beer. He doesn't want to do shit, kind of thing. He used to be a mechanic and a football player, a sports sort of athlete guy, but now he's just some dude sitting in a recliner, watching TV, drinking beer all day, not wanting to do anything after an injury at a mechanic shop that he worked for. Anyway, older crowd, late Vietnam era, sort of in that mentality, but he's, I guess, must have been an only guy. So, that was also an issue. Firstborn, only guy. Susan enters the room and removes a few bills from the dresser, and at this point, this is where Frankie gets her idea. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to leave. And then, Susan tells Frankie, this is her mother telling her, just don't come out of here. And she's like, what? This is freaking sucks, She sinks back against the bed, her eyes strained and worried. Okay, and at 16, who wants to be strained and worried? No offense. So yeah, I also met, Carla. Now, her dad wasn't a mechanic and alcoholic, but, the entire town freaking didn't like the guy. Nor her mom. She wasn't the most attractive, but Carla and her sister sure did change the hell out of that freaking scenario. So there's that. So Frankie lies tucked under a blanket, staring at a phone. Her eyes are laden with anxiety, and a tear seeps from, the corner of her eyelid. Anyway, cautiously, she slides off the bed onto the floor, tiptoes toward a half-open door. Television is heard off-screen behind the door. Bill is cradling a beer with his mouth agape as he sleeps, drooling into a recliner. Frankie dashes across the floor, lifting a backpack. She opens a drawer, right? It's the same drawer with the money and, wearing a... Next thing you know, wearing white... Did I write this? I thought there was more to that one right there. She passes and then blows a kiss toward her mom. Maybe I just deleted that entire scene. Wearing a stained... She's just one side of there, I guess. Wearing a stained white hooded sweater and backpack strapped to her back, Frankie overlooks Susan sleeping. No, that was it. She motions a gentle kiss, stands at the door to the apartment in grave contemplation, right? She's like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I shouldn't. I don't know what to call it. Anxiousness, maybe? Contemplation. confusion, a lot of different emotions at the same time. She stands at the door's agape, contemplating. Bill snoring, he shifts a bottle of beer, right? And another on a table near him. She turns from the living room and exits. Okay, so lit in the streetlights, she's running nonstop, her hood falling behind, her hair suspended in the wind, tears swelling, just freaking falling out, etc. And yeah, that part right there, I don't like. I don't like that part at all. It's the part where your head starts freaking aching, and then, you get that little knot in the bottom of your throat, where it's like, I don't want to talk, kind of thing. So anyway, it's a bad situation, a lot of that. She motions a kiss to her mother, etc., etc. Flash all around her. She can't stop. She cannot stop. She's got to get to where she's going. She doesn't know where she's going. Where is it? Thunder cracks. In the background, Frankie's distraught and wandering near benches. Okay, so we see her at a bus station. A few seats are tarnished with graffiti. A worn woman of about 38. Exits the terminal lobby, toting a duffel bag. She's toting a duffel bag. She approaches, this is Monique. Monique approaches Frankie, and we hear only the splatter of rain on cement. Yeah. Sorry. Anyone gets close, you feel like that. Sorry. It's alright. So she takes notice of Frankie slouching, and, she inches closer, like, hey, what's wrong? She ignores her. Frankie's like, whatever. She's like, excuse me, do you need some help? I don't know. I don't know. Monique's 38. That's about it. Kind of tall, a little tattered, sort of worn, a little rough. Not quite, because she's had her sister. Had her back her entire life. Frankie pissed off. You can't help me. Like, she's like, you should be inside somewhere. Storm pretty bad. Where's soon? Where are you going? She's like, I don't know, but I know I'm not staying. She's like, hi, my name's Monique. Hello, child. What's your issue? And so she mutters through sobs, Frankie. But it's like, can't do it. She's like, well, Frankie. And then Monique, gently. It was gently. Scoots finally aside Frankie. She's like, I was about your age when I ran away for the first time. And this is me, okay? I'm getting over the entire lake. Damn. She's got to get out of there. I think it was. It was super simple at that point. For the first time. They never found me. I'm still homeless. Anyway, Frankie, absorbs one of her tears with the sleeve ends. Like, anyway, they say we homeless go nuts. She's like, I'm not going back. And Monique goes, where are your parents? Frankie slams a backpack against the bench. Monique is stunned, right? She's like, oh my gosh, you just almost hit me with a backpack. No. Okay. So anyway, I don't know or care who you are or where you come from. So she's about ready to verbally attack this chick, and this chick is like, I'm only trying to help you. So Frankie searches Monique, grabs the bag, and storms off. A few steps later, we see Monique running to quit the distance. Monique loudly, right? She's like, listen, I wouldn't go that way. And Frankie yelling back, I've lived here most of my life. She's like arguing now. You can't be out here alone. She's like, what makes you so much more smart? She's getting freaking annoying. But anyway, 22 years of this crap. I'm going to be here much longer anyway. And then that sort of, there's a side story there between Monique and Kate. And that's basically, this is her sister, and their parents, I think, died at a younger age, and there was a sort of memento that, or not a memory that they were going to share, because Monique didn't want to be around the same area that Kate would be. She didn't want to be there. She's rebellious, sort of. My entire life kind of is gone, and I don't like my sister right now. 20 years of this crap, and I'm not going to be here much longer anyway. So she's like, okay. they stand still in the rain, sort of eye to eye, it's sort of a turning moment. This is what it's going to be like if you don't fucking listen up, little turd. Anyway,
That's how they probably get after a while, you know? I'm just saying. That's the way I get after a while. It's annoying, and it's easy to be angered. It's so easy to be angered when your life is not exactly like you want it to be, and it hasn't been for years, okay? So she's like, where are you going? Frankie asks Monique, where are you going? Monique, wouldn't that be the easiest question to answer? Bus roars in the station. She's like, that's mine. You know, like, that's mine. So Frankie, at that moment in desperation, she's like, let me go with you. Let me go with you. No, anyway. So it was the idea that, you know, there's this entire, like, freaking situation that I was in, freaking younger Carla, like, kind of situation. Gonna be pregnant at, like, freaking 16. Just freaking floors me. Which was worse because drugs were involved. And I'm like, God, that entire area. So I experienced that too. She's like, let me go with you, so change it. I think was how that started. The rest of the writing. It was going to be a sad story where Frankie kills herself at high school age. So anyway, Frankie pulls a wad of cash from the bag and extends the cash toward Monique. Monique, put that away. Right. Put that away. She says it really fast. Listen up. You need to go home. You need to go home, and you need to go home now. Frankie's like, go back to that apartment with the drunk and I'll push over. I don't think so. You know, kind of thing. Like, I'm not, but it's a left side squeakiness, which is like inexperience. You're making me feel very, very little, but at the same time, you know, like, I know I'm little and I'm not doing it, kind of thing. You know, it's rebellion. But kind of like a neat situation of rebellion, but at the same time, you know, hey, this is gonna get you in a lot of trouble type situation. Frankie shoves the cash into Monique's hand, and, you know, she's like demanding, please. Besides, I'm going to Houston. Sorry, I can't. You know, she starts to walk off, and Frankie's chin wrinkles. You know, she's starting to cry, but at the same time, it's like, are you serious? You know, and then it cuts out, and you fade in through black again, or no, fade cut in through black. It's passengers are passengers are waking, passing about tiny packages of food, stretching, etc., etc. And here I think it'd be a better idea to say Frankie wakes puffy-eyed, you know, to the rising sun over hills and plains. Just coming through there, so I'd say, you know, Frankie is waking, or no, passengers are waking. Is she there or is she not? I don't know if I want to question that. You know, like, do you? Like, I don't think I would want to question that. No. So I think at this point it's going to be Frankie wakes puffy eyed, etc., etc. So our next, or does she peek into the aisle? Okay, I think I like this one. I like this idea a little bit better. Either she's waking, I think she's waking puffy eyed. So right here it would be a shot or not a shot sequence, but kind of like a two shot sort of scenario where there's two parts of action. One, passengers are waking, passing around food, stretch, etc., which would be kind of like a series. And then you see Frankie, like, you know, sort of like opening her eyes, little puffy, sort of, you know, kind of thing. And as she's waking, it's like she's been crying a lot, so she has a lot of head pressure, sort of not this happy, chirpy little freaking teenager that's annoying to some homeless chick. You know, her entire life is taking a turn. She's leaving from a place that's bad, and you don't know the rest of the story until then, but she's going to a place that's worse. So, the seat decider is empty, and the person outside passing. Her head peeks into the aisle. Monique comes into frame low, holding with Frankie a gaze. Get enough sleep? She's asking, but not like that. She's like, get enough sleep? Or something like that. Frankie sighs a relief. She's like, or something like that really quick, too. Reaches in the overhead, Monique reaches into the overhead compartment, you know, she's like, you're in luck, I brought breakfast. I have, and she's like digging through the sort of, you know, little bag or something like that. She tosses a foiled rat bar over to Frankie, and she's like, 2. Monique squirms across, you know, or scoots across, squirms across Frankie and plops onto the seat like, geez. Like, squirms. Yeah, because the visual is basically over the seat of the seat of front, those two. So you see Monique like past Frankie. It's like a squirm. She's like, all right. So it's visual, like, yes, as I'm reading. But anyway, or not visual, it's imagery. Jeez, I've already learned those 2 words. You didn't tell me why you left. You didn't tell me why you left. So she's like, wants to hear more about her story, but at the same time, like, what's gonna happen to me, kind of thing. And Monique, she's ill at ease because she knows that there's nothing that comes of homelessness that's positive. There's no place in the U.S. or anywhere else to see homeless, and Monique's like, kind of question, what do I tell this teenager? And then Frankie adds, or why you're going. She's like, are you always this persistent? And then, yeah, I'm the one with trouble in this situation. Let's see. When we get there, just turn around, get yourself back on this bus, and take yourself home. So Frankie doesn't get that. She doesn't take the cue. It's not a good place, kind of thing, Frankie sinks in the seat like the entire world is falling from her lap. She cocks an eyebrow like, whatever. She's like, should I? She was just... I remember thinking that. She has an attitude that is almost impossibly penetrable, so you can't say, hey, this kid's going to be all right someday. She's not a kid, though. She's a teenager. Yeah, I've experienced that, too. So she's like, I'm visiting my sister. And at this point, she's holding this little tiny gold leaf sunflower. It's a golden pendant thing. Or not pendant, what would you call it? A pin. It's kind of like a pin. She's thumbing the detail. So meaning it's ridged, it's, sort of detailed jewelry. And then Monique goes into her story. She's like, she gave this to me in the feather about 10 years ago, the poem for my mother. And this is a point where, she just couldn't handle it. And she invited me to her home. She invites me to her home every once in a while. And she's Cape Light, photographer, the acclaimed. And she's like, well, I'm sitting here as a 38-year-old woman, and there is nothing that's come of my life. I've been there for 22 years. What the hell does it matter? Kind of thing. But at the same time, her sister's been there for her the entire time, letting her explore what she wants to, do what she needs to, et cetera, et cetera. And she's like, I can't freaking, be the person that's going to, sustain for her, kind of thing, but she's never going to get it, kind of thing. And, maybe you shouldn't put yourself in that type of realm or world if you're going to be more successful in your life. I expected she would be breaking the news she'd be planning to become a man, right? And I don't know about that, though. I don't really bring, massive trouble to anyone unless they actually want it that way. Anyway, yeah. Now, when you meet Kate, you don't initially expect that she's going to have the voice she does, but when you get there, she's very feminine, but at the same time, she has a very deep, authoritative demeanor. That's Kate, okay? So anyway, there's her, and then she's, maladjusted, sort of uncomfortable, she squints over to Monique, and then she's peels back the wrapper, I should just see you. She's like, a man. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? And now this part, they don't like the word homosexual, or didn't for a while, and she is, and then Frankie's like, what's that? Monique's like, she's been crisping under the light and heat waves in Houston, right, which is Texas, with a group of women attempting to attain and preserve her homosexual rights to marriage. This is before freaking marriage was legal, again. It's like, she doesn't know enough about it. I was like, but I can freaking quote it in almost everything. Love this, love that for an eternity. I don't think I'll ever become a fan, but I haven't had one good relationship. And I haven't had one good relationship. She's like, you mean? She's like, yeah. Frankie glances out the window like, Monique, she's like, if you don't take yourself directly back to what? So yeah, and at one point it was the East Coast, somewhere in the East Coast, like New York or something like that, to Los Angeles, and then it was freaking New York again, and then it was Los Angeles again. So she's coming from Los Angeles toward Houston, or is somewhere East Coast toward Houston. This almost like a halfway marker or something. I don't know. You'll be coming with me, and I'm not promising that you'll like it. She's like, I'm sure any place is better. Ugh. Anyway, when you're going, that is so wrong. Yeah. When you're going to tell, when are you going to tell her about me? And then she's like, she can nag, but I'm sure she'll understand. We had some troubled times as well. She was just lucky to find a family. Hint, hint, not. Frank is like interrupting. I need to use the restroom, so she, gets up, passes out of sight. Monique stares at departure, like, what the hell just happened, Okay, so I don't have much background on Monique. I'll put it that way. She's not really into drugs, but she's had a really hard life. Doesn't get to go to doctors as much as she should. Doctors don't pay attention when she does. She's homeless. It's sort of the overall understanding. And it's she's had a rough life, so it's but she finds beauty in the smallest things, and I think I can relate to that. And that's the only way I can relate to Monique, because I do not relate to freaking Frankies and stuff. They're there, but she's like, hey, come here, I'll take you with me, type thing. Not really. I can't really relate to that. Like, if I was in a situation, I completely like freaking have been through that idea 3 or 4 times, and I cannot relate to that. Like, you go to a bus stop and all of a sudden this freaking teenager shows up. Her family lives in the same city, and you're supposed to take her where, kind of thing. I can't relate to it. It just freaking floors my mind. Anyway, she's like 38, and this kid's like, she's gonna leave anyway. I think that's how Monique must have like dealt with the idea, is that she's just gonna leave anyway, and if she's not out there with someone, she's gonna get hurt even worse than she is, and no one might be there to help her, type thing. I could relate to that, and I could kind of agree to it, but at the same time, like, it was a worry. It was a worry in that entire idea. I thought of like more times than one. I was like, if I like any character in the story most, who would I like? And I think it was just because I had a perspective that was that, and I think Christopherson was my favorite character too. Christopherson. Mr. Christopherson, he has an interesting voice, but at the same time, like, Mr. Christopherson, like, very no, it's not poignant. It's rambunctious, but at the same time with a certain like executive professional demeanor. I don't know how to explain him, but he's interesting. He is. Mr. Christopherson. It was nice to meet you. Anyway, so the sun's setting, transportation consumers are awaiting passenger and baggage cluttered lobby, security guards near a detection arbor, 2 boys staring at a ticket counter, and a very aged smoker lighting a cigarette outside a window. Frankie coyly follows Monique from the exit in the still parking lot. She's looking around. She's wondering, what's this? What's that? I've never seen this before. What is that? Oh my, So it's a good thing she was there. But at the same time, I don't toy with that idea. So this place is dark and insufficiently lit. That's the next theme, and that is basically in Houston, Texas. It is the darker side of the city where gangs hang out most of the time. Anyway, they're kind of this state would probably be better. Houston isn't as criminal, I don't think, as here. But anyway, these criminals decide it's a good idea to, harm them. So you see Frankie fall sort of to the ground in this silhouette, and Monique, she's missing. Where's Monique? Kind of thing, Fade to black, you hear sirens, the scream of sirens, and next thing you know, paramedics are taking her into this sort of ER, or not ER, OR sort of area, and it's a corridor that is blue and white and sort of long. Narrow and long. I haven't been to the hospitals, I don't think, in Houston. Humble, I think there was one, maybe toward Houston, Humble or something like that. Volleyball. Think of volleyball and stuff like that. So anyway, 3 medical short and freaking dumb. Thinking dumb. So why am I thinking dumb? Anyway, the staff, okay, so she's tossing a little incoherently, sort of groaning and stuff like that, like, damn, that shit is like freaking intense, because I'd also had not an experience with that, but roommate's girlfriend talking about a stab wound that she had, and she said it's the worst sort of searing pain you can imagine having. It burns, sears, freaking, all of a sudden, you just start to bloat and all kinds of other stuff. So it's fluids rush to those sort of areas, and it's not only blood and that type of pain. So yeah, I can understand how someone would be like in freaking agonizing freaking pain by something like that, But then also you hear of like stories, guys breaking like multiple bones in their bodies and just fucking screaming. So that too. So they enter the operating room, and she loses consciousness as these OR doors come closed. Okay. Then there's Joe's apartment. We're back to older Frankie, and she's staring at the roof, thunder rolling. We zoom in to her irises. In other words, from maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 inches away toward her, and it's gradual. It's maybe like an inch every 3/4 second, maybe. So you go 10 to 15, nah, a little bit faster than that, maybe 2 inches every second or something. It's pretty quick, anyway. And then as we go into her iris, everything turns black. She's unconscious. And then it goes into the voiceover. I think every day about how a person can just fade from life, how only memories are left as reminders of time, and how often throughout life every person living fears the worst. But I was lucky. And then she goes, I got to meet Kate. Just back and forth between a negative freaking perspective and a positive perspective. And it's like freaking torture. It's hell. Has she read this? Has she read this? I don't know. Anyway, back to the music, and I might stop at that point. That was like page is that thing? That's page 15.